Yes, the Rough Tough Bulldogs, the theme song of the mighty South Fremantle Bulldogs and their new coach, Craig White. He's got a very white theme on the show this morning. We've had Nick White from the Western Force, Craig White from the South Fremantle Bulldogs joins us now. Craig, welcome.
Thanks, Duff. Thanks for having me on.
Very good to have you on, mate. It's been a nice start to your WAFL coaching career. 2 games, 2 wins.
Yeah, no, look, it's been a very positive start. Definitely, you're a little bit nervous and anxious a few weeks ago to see where it was all gonna go, and thankfully we're tracking in the right direction. But obviously a long way to go, and I think everyone's just still trying to find their feet.
I was following the quarter-by-quarter scores in the opening game against Perth, and you were basically trailing at every change. How was the temperature gauge in the coach's box then? How did you handle the stress of all that?
It wasn't too bad in round one. We felt like we were having periods of play which we were actually happy with, and potentially both sides I think would say the same thing, where probably it was a bit of a turnover and mistake type of game, and who could capitalise the most. So I think we were 4-9 or 5-9 at half time. We felt that if we were kind of 6-7, we probably had our noses in front, but we felt like it was relatively even contest, and so the box wasn't too bad from a coach's point of view. I think late in the game it definitely started to heat up. We felt like probably twice we just got our noses in front, and we thought maybe we'd done enough, and then to Perth's credit, they challenged us twice and then kicked 2 goals in real quick succession twice, and got themselves back in the game. So it was a baptism of fire round one.
A little bit more or a little bit less stress probably at the weekend. Comfortable win over Peel Thunder. Strong team performance in that game.
Yeah, it was. It was really even. We started the game really strongly. We were able to play the game in our forward half, which was great, and we were able to get some structure and set up our defence in behind the ball. And we've got a really experienced backline currently. So when those guys get a chance to be able to get some field position and set up, they do a really good job. So we were comfortable again with where that game lied. We played certain parts of the game really well. We just love to find that last little piece. We feel at the moment our forward connection piece, and it's still a work in progress. And we're just trying to work out what the best mix is there.
It was interesting to read about, you talked about your major coaching influence being Darren Harris from your time at Claremont. He was very much a structure coach too, wasn't it? Is that where you got your focus on structure and defend behind the ball?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Harrow, taught me a hell of a lot in those couple of years which I was there. I was a bit of a sponge kind of in that there, and then became really good friends with Jeff Valentine as well. So kind of used both of those guys as kind of mentors of even as I transitioned into amateur coaching, and was able to kind of get feedback from them and bounce some ideas off them through that kind of period of my coaching. And Harrow's obviously well rounded in all facets, and even his leadership and culture program is something that I kind of took from him as well. So he's got a huge footprint on kind of my coaching career.
So what sort of team do we expect South Fremantle to be as the season evolves, Craig? What sort of style will you be pursuing?
We've kind of given ourselves a few goals. We want to be really solid, rock solid defensively. So from that, we feel like that's kind of where finals footy comes into play. If we're going to give ourselves a chance to play finals, we want to be able to play a finals brand of footy, and we want to be able to make sure that we can defend the ground. So we did it okay against Perth. We did it pretty well against Peel in round 2. So that's kind of a major focus area. And then we want to be able to try and play relatively exciting footy when we get the ball. So two parts of it. We want to be able to run and carry, and we call it line break in our kind of dialogue at South Freo. And there's multiple ways you can do that. There's the traditional kind of switch the ball out into space and run and carry, and then there's some stuff that when teams defend well, you've got to be able to have a plan B as well. So hopefully we can play a little bit of exciting footy when we do get the ball as well, Duff.
Trey Rusco's been amongst the goals for you early. What's the role you're asking him to play? Is he your main target, or where's he fitting in?
Yeah, he is at the moment. We've kind of, throughout the pre-season, we felt that we had a couple of injuries and boys on slow or build-up programs. So like Zach Strom and Ed Graham, for example, have been two guys that have traditionally played those key posts in the last couple of years. We're going to have slow starts to the year. So Trey coming in is so flexible, but we kind of thought that the first month to 6 weeks he's going to be that key pillar, and that's kind of transforming that way, and he's doing a really good job. He's getting a lot of ball go his way, and we've been able to find Solly James in the last couple of weeks, which he rucked for us in the preseason games when Hamish Free was unavailable and still building through his preseason as well. So along with now Solly and Trey there, we've been able to find a couple of avenues and get a good mix. But Trey's a brilliant one-on-one player. So if we get it to him nicely, it's great. But if we don't, he's able to fight and win most of his one-on-ones.
Another key acquisition for you, Ethan Hughes, obviously from Fremantle and Peel Thunder. Tell us where you're using him and what he brings.
Yeah, he's been a great addition. He's like an on-field coach, effectively for us. He's the way he sets up the structure and the kind of the defence behind the ball. He's kind of positioned at half back as kind of the general, so he kind of can play on the tall and the small. He can lock down and he can kind of drop off and help aerially as well. So we're super lucky to have someone of his ability and his leadership and character around the group. He started the year brilliantly. I think he was probably in our top 2 or 3 against Perth in round 1 when we were up kind of under siege at times, and then on the weekend probably didn't have as big of impact, but he's a major part of kind of that team defence structure. You
mentioned line break being a key part of your brand. Is Jermaine Jones a key to that? It was certainly what he used to like to do at when his time at the West Coast Eagles. How are you using him?
Yeah, for sure, Duff. He's again. We've kind of positioned ourselves for to try and get a little bit of stability in our back line, and he's part of that. So he's on the other kind of half back flank, and he's kind of the opposite to Hughesy. He's the one that is able to kind of have the license to go and use his speed and line break, and he's got really good foot skills as well. So we see that he potentially, as the season goes on, can become a midfielder at times for us. But while we're just trying to kind of find our feet and then try and have a bit of continuity, he'll probably find himself at half-back for the next few weeks.
You mentioned Zach Strom having a slower start to his preparation. What's been the issue and where's he at? Because he's obviously been a real key to the team over the last, almost like a decade.
Yeah, he just had some surgery and issues with his hamstring over the break, and he had some injections done just before Christmas. So it wasn't necessarily that he's had too many issues. It's just more so just been the build from that. So he played one practice game before round 1, and then unfortunately had to miss with a wedding in round 1, and then played reserves on the weekend. But he's obviously going to be an important cog for us going forward. He's getting into the twilight of his career, so we really want to look after him and make sure that we don't rush him back. And at the moment, we've been able to kind of stick to the program and selections tonight after training. So we're just kind of toying with whether or not we bring him back this week or we give him one more. We feel like the forward line at the moment is working okay, but there's definitely conversations of whether or not he comes back this week or not.
So one bloke that had been a star for the South Fremantle Bulldogs and had some injury issues that have disrupted him over the past 2 or 3 seasons, Jake Florenka, back and playing good footy. Tell us about his start to the season.
Yeah, been really great. He's been able to have a full pre-season uninterrupted, which I think has been the main part of it. And then now has played kind of three games, one of the pre-season and the 2 first rounds, and just getting that confidence back in his body is probably probably been the main parties. As he said, I think he'd played 10 games in 3 seasons or something. So he's effectively like a new recruit for us. And, before he had those injury worries, he was probably one of the prime movers in the competition. So, look, we're just treading water with him carefully. We're using him a little bit in the forward line as well. We've kind of we're trying to get the mix of that right. We've got Parker and Winder and Florenka that can all kind of go forward and be dangerous forward as well. So Jake's hit the scoreboard in both games, which is kind of great for us. Having that flexibility where we can kind of get his engine room stuff in the middle of the ground. But 2 goals against Perth and 1 against Peel has been quality, and then something that we're looking to continue to do as the season unfolds.
You mentioned some of those guys that are playing forward to centre. They all bring something a little bit different too, don't they? Diversity in your forward line is great, and it tends to make you a lot harder to contend with for opposition teams. And all those players you mentioned, Matty Parker and Jake Florenka and others there, they all bring something. Just Isaiah Winder, I think you mentioned too. They all bring something just slightly different to each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the balance and the mix, and it's wherever they play. If it's in the midfield, we need to kind of have that balance in there as well. And we've had Matt Ward's kind of come back to the club from a few years in the amateurs, and he provides that balance of the inside grunt and tackling and that kind of little 1%ers that allows kind of Parker and Winder and that to play their natural game. And then likewise when we're forward, we've got a couple of boys playing some really good roles at the moment, which allows guys to play to their strengths. And we feel like when Solly James is down there, we need to be able to get to his feet, because he's a big unit and he doesn't necessarily get beaten in the air. He's marking a few at the moment, but we also know that if he doesn't mark it, they're generally going to come to his toes. So boys are playing some really good roles forward of the footy. Rowan O'Hare and Connor McDonald have done a great job in the first couple of weeks as well.
Jackson Artemis was a person who was talked about in contention for the national draft last year. Still with you at this stage. How's he going early season?
Yeah, really good. He's had a great pre-season. I think his character to be able to kind of put the disappointment of missing the draft behind him and then just really focus on getting a great pre-season. He's been awesome for us. He's probably got the benefit of just such a senior backline. So for us, knowing that we can put him in there with the likes of Hughes and Jones and Pearson and then Noah Strong means that he's getting fast-tracked in his development from that point of view. We can kind of trust that we can just let him play his game. He's got elite speed and elite kicking attributes, so we're able to kind of play to his strengths. If we kind of got an undermanned backline or an inexperienced backline, he might find it a little bit tougher. But we feel like with the mix that we got currently, we should see him develop, and he's just starting to come into his own. I think we found round 1 he was super nervous as all boys are in their first game, but then on the weekend we saw a couple of really nice bits of play. So hopefully as the next few weeks transpire, we start to see him really come into his own and have impacts on the game. And then I think obviously the obvious question was that he'll probably start to put his name up for potential drafts mid-season at the end of the year, hopefully.
That was what I was going to ask you about, actually, is are you aware of any contact made from AFL clubs to Jackson about potentially picking him up mid-season?
Oh well, my old man's a recruiting manager for Essendon, so I get a phone call from him every week. So I've told him strictly hands off for now. But look, I'm not acutely aware. Obviously, we're only a couple of games in, and I'm sure that those things will transpire. But it's only natural that guys that just missed the draft with his types of attributes will be closely looked at. And he's got areas on the game which he knows he's got to work on, but we feel that we can expose him, especially at league level, and he's doing a great job at the moment. So we've got no reason for him not to be playing in our side at the moment. So I think he's going to be doing everything he can to put his name up there, and what will be will be. And if it doesn't come at the mid-season, I'm sure he'll give himself a chance at the end of the year as well. Another
young bloke you've got down there, Tom Bell. How's he been tracking?
Yeah, he's been in the best player in the reserves for the first 2 weeks. So Again, he's probably a victim of circumstances at the moment. When we've got Chad Pearson and Noah Strom holding down our key positions, and they've done that for so many years, and quality players themselves. But his ability to kind of just jump into Chad's pocket over the pre-season and kind of learn from him, and Chad sits with Belly and does his review on a Monday and helps develop that. And he's got Chris Main as his line coach, as the back line coach. He's coming on. He's a great talent. He's athletically, very, very forward for a 19-year-old. His kicking and his ability to read the play is high level. And look, we've got to get him in sometime soon. So I'm sure he'll play league footy at some stage this year. It's just when that will be. But yeah, look, he's one that'll be definitely looked at as well, Duff.
And one of the most talked about juniors, and I don't know how much you've had to do with him because obviously they're in and out of state programs now, but Fred Rodriguez was one of the most touted underage players in the national champs last year, certainly being talked about as a potential top 10 draft pick. Can you tell us how much you've had to do with him and tell us a bit about him?
Yeah, Fred's 17 years old, still at school. Debuted for us in round one. We knew that he had national duties. He had it on the weekend, so he played in the national academy game against the VFL on the weekend, and he's got another one in a couple of weeks. So the continuity piece wasn't great, or isn't great for us in terms of in and out. But we always wanted to pick our best side round one, and he forced his way into that in round one with two really quality pre-season games in the seniors. So he's a ready-made midfielder, big body for a 17-year-old, and his ability in traffic and in tight with his composure. He's great with his hands. His foot skills, left and right foot, is probably something that's kind of lost on these kids these days, and he's been able to use the ball on both sides of his footy, both sides of his body. And he played as a forward for us in round one. He's probably not a natural forward, but he's just his ability. He kicked a quality goal, left foot snap. When it was tight against Perth round one, showed his class. So he has been in and out, as you mentioned, up with the program with us. But what I see is, he's someone that's he's kind of ready-made. So I'll look. I think the draft's inevitable for him. It's just probably what number it lies now, and exciting times for Fred.
Swan Districts ahead this weekend. Craig, good luck. A great start to your coaching career, mate. I hope you still qualify as a sane person, because most coaches go nuts sooner rather than later. But hopefully you've still got your brain cells all in good order in between the two ears, and hopefully there's a great season ahead for you down at South Fremantle.
I appreciate it, Duff. Speak soon.
Craig White, of course, the new coach at South Fremantle, 192-game veteran with the Bulldogs and now leading their senior team. We'll be back with more after the break.